Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Shay. I make videos about horror movies, horror TV shows, horror video games, and theme parks because I live in Central Florida and I feel like it would be a crime not to. And if you aren't new, welcome back. There's quite a few of you that are coming back, which is great. I like that. Um, so, we're going to start off today just going to explain what we're reviewing today. And also, full transparency, I'm probably going to film this in two sittings because this is going to be a really long video. So I just want to be transparent about that because, yeah. Anyways, so something about me that you may not know is I don't really watch TV shows. I used to be really big into TV shows back in the day. I used to be like up on all the hip shows everybody watches, but unless somebody sits me down now and watches a show with me, I'm probably likely not going to watch it unless I'm really, really excited for it, if it's something that I'm really passionate about. So, a lot of the times I miss the majority of TV shows. And what's crazy is I've said in my intro since, I started doing this, that I talk about horror TV shows, and I haven't talked about a horror TV show. So today we're going to break that streak and we are going to talk about a horror TV show. Yay! If you saw the title of the video, then you already know what we're talking about. But I wanted to just give you guys a little bit of a heads up that we were talking about Yellowjackets. Now, some people might argue this isn't really a horror story or horror show. It's more of like a crime thriller, but the parts with the kids are definitely very like horror adjacent. So this is one show that actually came on my radar when it came out. I did not have access to Showtime to watch it, so I kind of just skipped over it. I was like, oh, that seems interesting. And I also really didn't know what it was about because I only saw like a few things from the trailer because I was literally just an advertisement on Pinterest. I'm not even lying. It was an advertisement on Pinterest. I was like scrolling through Pinterest looking for recipe ideas and I was just like, oh, what's this? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's cool. And I don't think I paid more attention to it than I needed to. So that was definitely like, it was definitely on my radar back then, but it took me till 2023 to actually sit down and watch the show. It really took me until a friend kind of mentioned to me that she was like, this show is really great. And then I found out that Jasmine Savoy Brown, who is plays Mindy in this like most recent Scream movies, was in the show. And I was like, all right, sign me up because I love her in Scream. So I wanted to see how she does in this. And I sat down and watched this show. I think my best friend and I binged it in we might have binged it in a week because season two had just ended by the time that we started watching it. Season two had literally like just ended the week before. And so we watched all of season one and all of season two. Yeah. And it's suffice it to say, I love the show, but why don't I really watch TV shows? Well, for some reason, for some reason, I have a weird attention span where I can't really watch TV for hours and hours on end, like TV shows for hours and hours on end, but I can watch documentaries about any form of true crime, usually like financial scams and stuff like that. I love that type of stuff. Or I can watch a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hour YouTube video with no problems. I don't really understand how my brain works. Not really sure that I can't sit down and watch a TV show, but I can sit down and watch YouTube for like 8 to 12 hours, watch one video. Forget it, those deep dive lore videos that come out. Like there was one about Outlast I was watching the other day. I'm really into those. But for some reason, yeah, TV shows, like it's hard for me to get into like binging them. It has to be something I really, really, really like. The other reason why is because TV shows take forever to come back. Back in Okay, I'm gonna sound like an old lady. Back in my day, back in the day, TV shows used to come back pretty frequently. Like they would have like a summer break and a winter break, but you'd always get the spring and the fall, and they'd have like 20 something episodes and they'd all be about 30 minutes long. No, every single show nowadays has to do like a behemoth of episodes. Like the episodes have to be like an hour to 2 hours long. Looking at you, Stranger Things. And then it takes like 2, 3 years for it to come out. Now I understand there was a lot of stuff that happened, especially at the end, from the middle to the end of 2023, that kind of affected, not kind of, it did affect how productions were for everything, but it still kind of makes me a little bit annoyed that it takes so long for us to get seasons of certain shows. So long, in fact, that sometimes those shows end up getting canceled. Like, for example, even though it's for good reason, and we're not going to get into the reasons, the Sandman show. The Sandman is what it's called. I really liked that show. I really like that show. And I mean, it's a good thing that what came out now instead of when season two came out. Season two is coming out, but the show's canceled after that. And I think it could have gone farther if, they had gotten the seasons out quicker. But, we don't want to give Neil Gaiman any money in this house. But regardless, sorry, the hair just keeps getting in my eye and it actually kind of hurts. But regardless, yeah, I it's just like it takes too long to get seasons, and by the time that a show like comes out with the next season, I have already forgotten that the show exists, or I've already forgotten what happened in the last season. And it was definitely the case with Yellowjackets. Like I said, I binged this in maybe about a week, maybe two, I'm not sure. And that was in like spring of 2023. Yeah, that was in like spring of 2023. It is now spring of 2025. That's how long it's been since I've seen anything Yellowjackets related. So I decided I wanted to review season 3. Season 3 is actually ongoing right now. I think it ends in a couple of weeks. The last episode will air in a couple of weeks, and then that's when I'll go and I'll watch the entirety of season 3, and then I'll do my video reviewing it. But I figured I can't really review season 3 if I don't really remember what happened in seasons 1 and 2. So that's what I've been doing, is rewatching the previous seasons of Yellowjackets so that I could be prepared to do the season 3 video. And I decided, you know what? Let's do season 1 and 2, because I think Yellowjackets, although it is a show that does have its own fan base, it's a show that's not accessible to everybody, because not everybody has Showtime or Paramount Plus with Showtime. So they're not able to watch it. And it's a show that I do think really deserves love and attention, because it is a fantastic show. I've seen some people say that season 2 wasn't that good. I haven't rewatched it, but I remember I really liked season 2. But it's a fantastic show. And the elements of this show really make it worth watching overall. So I was like, let me do season 1 and season 2. Let me do a review on those for people who may never get to see this show, and they're just interested in what the show's about. Maybe they've heard of it, but they're like, I ain't getting Paramount Plus with Showtime, and I don't blame you, because it is expensive. But yeah, so we're going to embark on a journey today, if you will join me. A journey through the first TV show that I am ever reviewing on this channel, a journey into the wilderness and the chaos that is Yellowjackets. All right. I had to take a sip of water. So we're going to start this off by talking a little bit about it. So the Yellowjackets came out in 2021, and it came out on Showtime. Like I said, it has 3 seasons. It's currently in its third season. Third season's ending this month. And it has a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, not bad, and a 7.7 out of 10 on IMDb. So what is Yellowjackets about? And you hear that, you're thinking it has something to do with bees, right? Yellowjackets actually follows a girls' soccer team and what happens to them when they're on their way to nationals and their plane crashes in the wilderness. It's very Lord of the Flies. These girls are stranded, and it's chaotic. None of them really are primed for this, and there is definitely something weird going on in those woods. Don't know what it is yet. So I think there was a channel I was watching the other day that mentioned that they had just started watching this show, and he said that it was giving him vibes of the movie The Ritual. I've never seen that movie, but I've heard about it, and yeah, it kind of has the vibes of The Ritual. Now, the other interesting aspect of the show is that it has a flash forward to present day. So while you're looking at the story of these girls surviving in the wilderness and what they're doing, you're also looking at the survivors of this accident, and how their lives are in the year 2021. It's kind of like in a weird way. It's kind of like it chapters 1 and 2, where you get like the like I think in the movie that came out in the 90s, it was like that. It was like it started with them as adults, and then it was them as kids, adults, kids, and it kind of just went back and forth like that. This is like that. It's like It, like the 1990 It. Like it's very much going back and forth between adults and kids. And I'm not going to talk too much about how I feel about that yet because we're going to save that for after everything is done. After I've gone through everything, we're going to save it. But right now, I am going to take you through some of the key characters you need to know. There are a lot of characters in the show, but I'm going to take you through some of the key characters that you need to know in this show, in season one especially. And I'm also going to give you a little bit of a synopsis of who they are, and I think I'm going to save how I feel about them for the end, too, each character. So, we open up with the character of Jackie, who's played by Ella Purnell, who is everywhere. If you don't know who Ella Purnell is, the Fallout Girl. That's all I'm going to tell you. The Fallout Girl. So yeah, she plays the character of Jackie, and Jackie is sort of Little Miss Perfect. She is the captain of the Yellowjackets. She comes from money. I mean, her house is really big. She comes from money. She's like her parents' little angel, and she gets good grades, and she's like the ideal girl. And she's got a boyfriend named Jeff. I didn't include him on here, even though he is very prevalent because I forgot. But she has a boyfriend named Jeff who she like really really likes, and she's just trying to like get to know him, like, or she's just trying to like get through high school, but she's definitely like the type A type of girl. Then there's her best friend Shauna, who the younger version of Shauna is played by Sophie, and I'm going to insert her last name here because I don't know how to pronounce it.
Sophie Nellis.
And Melanie Linsky. Now, first of all, I just gotta say this off the bat. The casting choices for especially Shauna, spot on. They look like they're related. Sophie and Melanie look like they're related. It looks like they could be like aunt and niece. It's just so scary. Like especially there's like one part, we'll get to it, where where we're actually following adult Shauna, and when she does something it shows her in 2021 but as a child, and it's such a seamless transition because Sophie looks so much like Melanie. But Shauna is the geeky friend. She's the nerdy friend that goes along with Jackie. She's I hate to say it, but she's the sidekick. She's the sidekick. She goes along with whatever Jackie wants her to do. She does get good grades, but she still follows Jackie wherever she wants to go. Um, as an adult, she is a stay-at-home mom to a teenage daughter. She marries Jeff, and we will get to that. She marries Jeff, and she is a stay-at-home mom, but you can tell she's very cutthroat. And from the moment that Melanie Linsky like steps, like you see her like in the like show, it's oh, she is so scary. And she's a housewife. She's a little housewife, but she's totally just like unhinged. The next character we have is my absolute favorite, and the reason why I love the specific actress that plays her, Natalie, or Nat. Now, that's why I wore my blonde wig, was in honor of Nat. Nat is played by, her younger version is played by Sophie Thatcher. Now, remember my Heretic video? I said I love Sophie Thatcher. This is why. This show was what made me love her. And it's all, her adult version is played by Juliette Lewis. Yeah, Juliette Lewis. That Juliette Lewis. Both of them kill this role. Both of them are like amazing and just like so good, at this. Nat is kind of a character. She's definitely from the wrong side of the train tracks. She gets around. She's, the rocker girl, the grungy girl. Um, and she's, like, oh, she's like a little bit, she gets kind of picked on by the others for being like, into alcohol and into substances and into boys. And that's kind of what she's known for. As an adult, it's clear that whatever they suffered in the wilderness really affected Nat, and Nat could not handle it. So she had substance abuse issues. And Tysa, which is another character we'll get to in just a second, Tysa actually was putting her into rehab facilities. But when we meet Nat, she is just getting out of rehab, and now she's going back to her hometown to try and see if she can reconcile with all of the things that she experienced. Then we have Misty. Misty is a hell of a character. That's all I can say. So Misty is played by Sammy Hanratty. I think is how you say it, or Hanratty. I don't know how you say it either. I'll put that in there.
Samantha Hanratty.
As a kid, and as an adult, she's played by Christina Ricci. And of course, Christina Ricci kills it, but so does Sammy. Sammy kills it too. Misty is another extremely nerdy girl. She's actually not physically on the team. She doesn't play soccer. She's like a ball girl or something. I don't know. Like she's on the sidelines like collecting stuff. But she's like a super nerdy girl. She gets bullied a lot. She's never really had a boyfriend. Nobody really likes her. But when they crash, she kind of becomes like for a little while, she kind of becomes the hero because she has a lot of survival training. And I'm just gonna say this right now: Misty is unhinged, and she's even worse as an adult. Christina Ricci plays this role beautifully, and as she should. But wow, I'm gonna say this right. I'm gonna say this: if she tells you her favorite character is Misty in Yellowjackets, run, run. We'll get into why Misty is unhinged, but yeah, run if she says her favorite character is Misty. Then we have Lottie, who is played by Courtney Eaton. And first of all, Courtney Eaton is just so adorable. Like I'm saying that like seriously, she just has like this really cute face. She just really does. Lottie is like another one who's very very rich. She's a player on the team, but she suffers with or it's believed that she suffers with schizophrenia, but there's something else going on there. It's potentially a supernatural thing. And once they crash in the wilderness, Lottie's true nature starts to sort of unfold. And we get to watch that fun journey from Lottie being kind of the quiet background friend to almost being the leader of this motley crew. Then we have my other favorite character in the show, Van. And Van is played by Liv Houston. Not Houston, Houston. Van or Vanessa, as she's known as. Van is sort of like the tough butch girl. She's obviously very gay from the moment you see her. She's very typecast, very like, stereotypical, I should say, not typecast. She's a tough one. She's the goalie. So, she's got the she's got she's got that dog in her, really. But the reason I like Van so much is because she's just very much like a loyal friend, and she also has some of the best lines in the show. She has some great quips. She's funny. She's really funny. Then we have Tysa, which we talked about Tysa, and Tysa is played by Jasmine Savoy Brown and Tawny Cypress as an adult. And Tysa is the overachiever. She is the one who probably has mapped her entire life out from the time she stepped out of the womb. As a child or as a teenager, she is kind of cutthroat. Like she's very like blunt, she's very logical, she's very like, like this is how things are and that's how they're going to be. She's also a little bit dangerous, but then some weird stuff starts happening to her and she does end up starting to sleepwalk and act really weird when she sleepwalks. We'll get into that. As an adult, Tysa is running for state senate. She is Van's girlfriend in high school, and so she's a lesbian, in adulthood, and she's married to a woman named Simone, and they have a son named Sammy, and she's running for state senate. And she's again still kind of exactly the same, like not much changed about her. She's very cutthroat, she's very like, in your face, she's very blunt, but at the same time, you can also see the trauma inside of her, and it's definitely something that I think um they reconcile with really well. We are almost done with our character list. We've got three more characters left, and they're all men. There's not a lot of men in this show, but there's three more characters left. So we have Travis, who's played by Kevin Alves. And fun fact, Kevin Alves and I are like a couple months apart in age, which kind of took me by surprise because when I saw him, I really thought that he was like at least 20. Like I thought he looks so young. So when I like was looking up like the actors and everything, I saw that his age was 33. I was like, huh? So anyways, Travis is the assistant coach's the Travis is the assistant coach's son, and he is the I call him Nick from Jimmy Neutron. I'm gonna put pictures up. This is Travis, this is Nick. Find the difference between these two. He reminds me of Nick from Jimmy Neutron with the hairstyle, but he's not like Nick personality wise. He's very insecure, he's very he broods a lot, and he's kind of mysterious, and of course he's the only age appropriate guy that's trapped on this land with a bunch of girls. So you can imagine how that went for him. Then we have Travis's younger brother Javi, who's played by Luciano Leroux. I think that's how you say it, Leroux or Leroux. And he's a younger kid who was brought on the trip because his dad insisted that he also come on the trip. And he is, not he's not very prevalent in the show. He's very, very skittish. He's very, very scared, like a kid would be in a situation like that. And him and Travis, are pretty close. They have a decent bond. And finally, we have the coach, Ben, played by Steven Kruger. And Ben is kind of he's the only adult in the whole situation, but he's rendered completely useless because he loses his leg, and we're going to get into that, but he loses his leg. So he's rendered pretty much, and when I say that, I'm sorry, I don't want to say like completely useless, like people with one leg are completely useless. I don't mean that. It's just like was not he's not equipped for that situation, and he doesn't know how to acclimate to that situation, to being in the wilderness and not having one of his limbs and having to rely on these teenagers to take care of him. That's what I mean. I don't mean people with one leg are incapable of doing things. Just letting you guys know that. Um, and you kind of see him in the show a lot trying to take back control and trying to be the adult, but he's kind of like overruled every single time because they're teenagers, they don't care. So that's the main character list you got to worry about. There's of course secondary characters, other people that are like important, but we're not going to talk about that too much. So, what I'm going to do is there are 10 episodes. I'm going to go through and hit plot points, and I'm not going to do talk about every detail in these episodes. There's some stuff that I might not bring up that you might be like, "Wait, that was really important," if you've seen the show. Feel free to leave it in the comments. It's totally fine by me. Um and yeah, the other thing I'm going to be doing with this is that I am going to be going down the list of the stuff that happens to the teenagers first, and then going down the list of the stuff that happens to the adults. So that way, it's not like I'm not bouncing back and forth, because the show very much bounces back and forth. Like it'll be like kids and then adults and then kids and then adults. So I'm going to just stick with one group at a time and do it that way, just to make it a little less confusing for you. So let's get into episode 1, otherwise known as Pilot. Now, the pilot episode kind of shows its hand really early on. It opens with a girl running through the woods, and she's obviously really scared. It's snowing, and she's like freaking out. She eventually trips and falls into a trap. And as she falls into a trap, these people in fur and like masks come and drag her off. And they're all wearing Yellowjacket shirts. They string her up and then they slice her open. And it's they yeah, that's where we're going with this. If you weren't able to tell, obviously they're lost in the wilderness. I'm just gonna say it because it's like I said, it's shown pretty much in the very beginning of the episode. They have to resort to cannibalism. They have to resort to cannibalism, although it doesn't actually really get dived into. They don't actually really dive into that until season 2, but they show their hand with this opening sequence. So then we get to meet Jackie, and this scene is uncomfortable. Jackie and Jeff are being intimate, kind of, like not really full on, but it's clear that Jeff is not doing a good job, and Jackie's just bored. After that, she sneaks Jeff out of her room and then leaves the house to go and meet up with Shauna, who's picking her up to go to school. Now, the Yellowjackets, they play their game. They end up qualifying to go to nationals, and it's really a super exciting moment, but this means they'll have to travel by plane. Henceforth, where we get into the plane crash. But before that, there's a player named Allie that the team kind of thinks is a liability, that she's not as strong as the rest of them. She's a freshman. And so while they're practicing, Tysa kind of comes up with the idea on her own to break Allie's leg. Yeah, no, she like literally breaks Allie's shins. It's very mafia. I'm sorry. Just so they could win nationals. But in a weird way, she probably saved Allie's life, because if Allie didn't break her leg, she would have been on that plane and she would have been lost in the woods. So, and that's something they do touch on in the last episode of the show. Not everybody was cool with Tysa breaking Allie's leg, obviously, because that's like horrible to do to somebody. So when they go to a party that night, Tysa and Shauna get into it, and they almost get into a physical fight, and Jackie has to step in and break it up, and she drags them off and kind of goes, in on all of them and says, we're a team and we have to act like a team, does her coach thing. And they have a very like nice moment Later on, after the party, Jeff takes Shauna and Jackie home. He takes Jackie home first, drops her off, and then him and Shauna park somewhere and they hook up. uh Shocker. That's, remember when I said that Shauna's married to Jeff? Yeah, that's why. The last major part that we have for the kids in the pilot episode is the plane crash, of course. So we get to see the whole thing unfold. We're mostly following Shauna in this episode, like kind of. So when she gets on the plane, she is visibly nervous about having to fly, and so Jackie gives her one of her mom's sleepy time pills. That's what we'll call them for today. She takes the pill, immediately knocks out, and then when she wakes up, there is nothing but chaos. They are falling from the sky, they are plummeting. Everyone's screaming, everyone's freaking out. There's a character named Laura Lee who's on the team as well, and she's very religious. She's praying, holding her Bible and praying, and they're just plummeting out of the sky. And they trying to help each other, and then they crash, and it is brutal. There's just this fear. They're all trying to get each other out. And yeah, no, it's a huge, huge fear for anybody who doesn't like to fly. Right here. So now in 2021, we're going to fast forward to 2021. It is revealed that Shauna and Jeff are married with a teenage daughter. Told you that. And a reporter named Jessica Roberts comes and she offers Shauna a book deal if she reveals what happens in the wilderness. And Shauna, much like the rest of the Yellowjackets, the rest of the surviving Yellowjackets, have all made a pact that they're never going to talk about what happened in the woods. So she's like, I'm sorry, like there's no amount of money you can give me. I am not I am not telling anybody what's going on. Like I said before, Tysa is running for state senator and she's joined by her wife Simone and her son Sammy. It seems like they have a relatively good relationship, but Tysa, of course, is a workaholic and doesn't really make too much time for her family. Misty, the crazy bitch, there's no other way to say it, but Misty, the crazy bitch, works as a geriatric nurse. ¿Por qué? Porque, no, she works as a geriatric nurse, and she has some very strange habits. She's not quite they all there in the head, and she from the offset seems incredibly dangerous. And to be quite honest, if you have parents or grandparents in a nursing home and you watch this show, it's enough. This the way Misty treats the patients is enough to make you never want to leave your parents alone with a care worker again. Because oh my gosh, like I'm not saying anything against care workers. I have friends who did that work and they were great, but she is gnarly. She's bad to these patients. And then finally, like I said before, Nat completed her last stint in rehab and she comes home with the intent to start looking for Travis again so they can reconnect. And that's the end of episode one. Well, technically, the end of episode one is the plane crash, but we're not here to get technical, are we? So after the crash, there is nothing but chaos. The plane's on fire. They're trying to drag people out of the plane. There's a lot of people died in the crash, including Travis and Hobby's father. And there's one part where Shauna is desperately trying to get Van out of the plane, but Jackie convinces her to leave Van because the plane is about to like explode and Van's probably dead anyways. So Jackie leaves Van behind, and Van is pissed because Van does live, obviously, because I said she's my favorite, one of my favorites. And Van's pissed from that point forward at Jackie, which I do not blame Van for that. Holy crap, I'd be pissed too if somebody left me burning in a plane. So yeah, Van's pissed about that. Now, while all the girls are freaking out, trying to figure out what to do, they're, not even like ready, really ready mentally for this. Misty just suddenly springs into action and becomes like this survivalist chick. Nobody really knows where she's getting this from. She just kind of leaps out with this, survivalist mentality. And she starts going around, she starts tending to everybody's wounds, she starts trying to helping them scavenge for food. And Coach, Ben, he was still alive, but his leg was caught underneath the plane wing. So when they pulled him out, his leg looked like noodles. That's the best way to put it. They pulled him out. His leg was just done. So while he's sitting there freaking out and they're trying to figure out like what to do, Misty comes over with an axe and just chops the rest of his leg off. And then she cauterizes the wound and she starts taking care of him. She takes it upon herself to start taking care of him. That's probably the worst thing that could have ever happened to Ben. Well, maybe not the worst thing. Something happens to him in season 3 that I didn't see a full spoiler, but something happens to him in season 3 that I'm assuming isn't very good either. Travis is unfortunate enough to discover his father's body impaled on a tree, and he, of course, breaks down when he sees that. Him and Javi are super upset. And then Misty, at the end, she hears this noise in the woods while she's looking for some food, and she realizes that it is the emergency locator beacon, which is for the plane. So basically, if the plane crashes, it's a beacon that they send out to whatever airline like station. I don't know the correct terminology, but it sends a signal to them, and then they could be rescued. Well, Misty is just so happy that she's finally popular and everybody likes her, so she destroys it. Yeah, she destroys the one thing that could have saved them in that moment just so she could be loved. Oh, Misty. In 2021, Shauna and Jeff are trying to work on their intimacy and their marriage. It's very clear that they're kind of drifting apart, mostly on Shauna's end. She's looking for a little bit of excitement, and she finds excitement when she rear ends a guy named Adam, and they kind of have a little bit of flirty banter. He offers to fix her car free of charge, and she's like, he's kind of cute, but I can't do it. I'm married. Jeff and Shauna do actually try to be intimate, and it's all right. It's okay. They're working on it. But then as Jeff is in the shower, Shauna sees a text on his phone from a woman asking him to meet her. And she immediately jumps to he's having an affair, which, I mean, fair enough. I mean, if I saw a text on my partner's phone and it said like it was a person that I didn't know saying like, "Oh yeah, meet me here," I would question, but she could have at least asked her husband. Like, communication, like, this is one of those moments where it's like communication would have solved this problem. Like, if when her husband came out of the shower, she was just like, "Hey, a text popped up on your phone and it said meet me here. What's that all about? Who's this?" But that's, I wasn't snooping, but the text just popped up. Nat and the other girls receive a postcard with a mysterious symbol from their time in the woods on it. She believes at first that Misty is the one that sent it to her, so she goes and confronts her, but then she finds out that everybody that survived received this postcard. So Nat and Misty decide to take a road trip to go and find Travis. And the last important thing that happens in the show really is that Sammy, Tice's son, is starting to exhibit some really weird behavior. I want to pause for a second and just say how great it is to see a black kid be the weird, creepy kid, because that's usually reserved for white kids. And I'm not saying that to be like any type of way, but it's like every horror movie you see, it's always the white kid drawing like this person that looks like a demon, and they're like, "That's my friend." It's kind of nice to see a black kid doing that, even though like we think that we wouldn't do it, but it's nice to see that. But yeah, he starts drawing extremely disturbing pictures, and Tysa is very, very concerned, and so is Simone. They're both incredibly concerned and wondering, what is, going on with him. So that's episode 2. The group buries their dead, and Tysa spots a lake, so she convinces everybody to head towards the lake. When they are heading towards the lake, they end up getting to a cabin, and they think it's occupied. They think somebody's in there, so they start banging on the doors and windows, but then they realize it's abandoned. They head into the cabin and they find they want to find food, they want to find supplies, anything. And unfortunately, all the food, the non-perishables, have perished at this point. Who knows how long that cabin's been abandoned, but they've perished at that point, and there's nobody there. They have some supplies, but not a ton. And while they're exploring the cabin, Lottie decides to go up to the attic, and she finds the body of a dead man. So the group ends up burying him as well, and this cabin now becomes the hub for everything that we see happen going forward. In 2021, Tice's political opponent uses cannibalism to deter voters from choosing her, which I can imagine is incredibly triggering for Tysa, because I mean, she actually practiced cannibalism, so I can't imagine that she would be thrilled to be called a cannibal on her political trail. It's probably like a turn of phrase that her opponent's using, but it's like, yeah, it's a little too close to home. Meanwhile, Sammy's behavior is becoming even more concerning as after he hurts a kid on the playground intentionally. Shauna follows Jeff to a hotel and she spots him having drinks with that mysterious woman who texts him. And she fully goes in and is like, yep, that he's having an affair. She does try to get into the room. She tries to give them her name, but they won't let her into the room. And then Adam shows up and kind of helps her, or not really helps her. He tries to help her get into the room by, talking at the front desk. But after they get rejected by the receptionist, they decide, you know what, let's grab a drink and hang out. And now Shauna is starting an affair. Misty and Nat break into Travis's home, but they end up getting arrested for that. Now, earlier in the season, Misty and Nat ran into Nat's old best friend, Kevin Tan, who is a police officer now. And he gave them his business card and what you call it, Nat just left it, so Misty snatched it up. So when they get their one phone call, Nat calls Tysa and Tysa's like, I'm not bailing you out, I've done so much for you. But then Misty calls Kevin and Kevin gets them bailed out. Nat and Misty end up at the ranch where Travis worked and they find out that they were too late. And while everyone just assumes that Travis's death was intentional, Nat is not convinced and she believes that somebody murdered him. The group find a hunting rifle and they all practice shooting the rifle to see who's the best at shooting the rifle. Most of the girls, pretty much all the girls, really suck at it. And Travis, of course, is really good at it. And Nat is afraid to handle the weapon, which I completely understand why. And we do get a flashback where we see that Nat's father was accidentally killed by a misfire from the rifle after he went on a rampage and um after he caught her with Kevin in her room. They weren't doing anything but listening to music, but he caught her with Kevin and he went on a rampage. He started hitting her mom, and so Nat brought the weapon out and aimed it at him and he took it from her and he took the safety off because he's like, oh, the safety was on. And then as he was walking out of their trailer, he trips, he falls, and pow. That's the best way I can put it, is pow. So that's why Nat is afraid of using the rifle. But eventually, Travis's misogynistic comments that he makes kind of push her to just get over her fear, and she shows that she's a sharpshooter and pretty badass. So Ben decides that only Travis and Nat get to handle the rifle and that they're going to hunt for food, which obviously during that time, Nat and Travis do end up bonding, despite the fact that originally it seemed like they didn't like each other. And Travis ends up making her go back to the plane crash site to get a ring from his father's corpse to bring back to Javi. He can't do it. He gets sick when he sees his dad's corpse. But she ends up doing it for him. Nat ends up pulling the ring off for him. And when they get back, he gives it to Javi. The group ends up finding a propeller aircraft that may or may not be functional. They're not entirely sure. And Laura Lee, whose grandfather used to fly planes, is completely focused on the idea of learning how to fly the plane. So she starts to study the manual to see if she can learn how to fly the plane. In 2021, Nat meets with Kevin and she starts to use his affections towards her to get information about Travis's passing. Misty starts to tail Nat and Kevin wherever they're going, and she's trying to find out information for herself. But then she runs into that reporter, Jessica Roberts, again, and they kind of have a little back and forth, and Misty is very suspicious of Jessica Roberts. Very suspicious. Now, Tysa, she has the opportunity to be endorsed by an extremely powerful donor, and she goes to this big gala ball to meet this woman and talk to her and try to get her endorsement. But when they're having their little moment and talking, the donor asks her, so tell me what happened in the wilderness, and I'll give you my money. And Tysa's like, no. And she rejects that offer and storms off, which, power move, that's all I can say. Shauna and Adam have a really cute date night, which is weird to say because she's married. They go around town doing all of the things that Shauna really didn't get to do because of the fact that she was lost in the wilderness. Shauna goes up to ask some random guys to buy her alcohol. You know, she lies and says that she forgot her ID at home and that, you know, they want to drink because she asked some random guy to get her some alcohol. They drink in the parking lot. They jump off of a bridge into the like lake while it's cold. They they go and play mini golf and they like hit it over like the fence and stuff like that. It's just like they do all these teenage stuff. But then at the end of the night, they're like, you know, really feeling in the moment and they start making out. And then Shauna gives him the go ahead and they get in the car and yeah. And then finally, when Shauna arrives home, she receives a call from Misty to let her know that Travis has unfortunately passed away, which really shocks Shauna and kind of throws her back into this whole Yellowjackets thing. So Lottie, like I said, they believe that she has schizophrenia, and because she's in the wilderness and she doesn't have access to a prescription medication, her medication she's been taking starts to run out, and she starts to exhibit some really strange symptoms. She believes there's something in the woods that is forcing them to stay in the woods, which is just crazy. All the girls are on their periods at this point, except for Shauna. And Jackie seems really suspicious about the fact that Shauna isn't on her period. So Shauna uses like animal blood to fake having her period. And while she's doing that, Tysa catches her in the act. Now Jackie, to try to lift everybody's spirits, decides that they should all hold a séance to communicate with the dead guy. They go upstairs into the attic, those who want to do take part in the séance, and they start doing their chanting. They sit around in a circle, and eventually it takes a really really dark turn when Lottie seemingly becomes possessed and starts, you know, like saying creepy stuff and doing creepy things. And they're just like, what is going on here? And I think eventually Laura Lee has to come up and kind of the power of Christ compels you to her. Which it works. She stops being possessed. Now Ben has been having an interesting predicament because Misty is a little bit too interested in him. She's not really interested in him just because he's got an ailment that she can help him with. She starts to become incredibly physically attracted to him, and she's been taking care of him, and he's been trying to fight off advances. There's a lot of weird stuff that she does, and I'm not even going to get into it because some of it I can't even say on YouTube. So at one point in the episode, she makes him some tea, and he drinks the tea, and he ends up getting sick, and he believes wholeheartedly that she poisoned him. I mean, I believe she poisoned him too. Let's be honest. He then when he realizes that she is capable of seriously harming him, he decides he's going to pretend to be her boyfriend, but on the down low, so she won't try and hurt him again. Yeah, when I say if her favorite is Misty, run, I mean it. And finally, the teenage segment ends where Thaisa finds out that Shauna is indeed pregnant, and Shauna has no idea what to do. And that is a huge bombshell to drop in the middle of this extremely tragic circumstances where Shauna is pregnant. In 2021, Taisa comes out of the house and finds the word spill written on the outside of her house in red paint. And later on, she finds a can of paint in Sammy's room. When she confronts him, he says the lady in the tree did it. And they're like, who is the lady in the tree? And that's who he drew, was the lady in the tree. Now Taisa's kind of realizing that her election is stressing out her family, and her son is like, you know, kind of, you know, going through something. Her wife is really, really like stressed out trying to keep the family together. So Taisa decides that she's just going to drop out of the Senate race because she doesn't think she has a chance to win anyways. But then when she goes to her press conference, she suddenly gets emboldened and decides to say that she is going to continue running and that scare tactics won't work on her, and, you know, stays in the race, which really, really pisses off Simone. Simone really gets mad at that. Meanwhile, Shauna goes to a Halloween party and she goes there with Adam, and she's having a good time. She's dancing, but while she's at the party, she sees who she thinks is Jackie in the Yellowjackets uniform. She goes and starts to follow her, only to find out that it's actually her daughter Callie who's wearing Jackie's uniform. And Callie sees Adam and Shauna kissing, and she gets really upset, obviously. The next day, Callie tries to blackmail Shauna into letting her do whatever she wants. And this is like, I mean, Shauna's like, listen, love her or hate her, Shauna's a bad bitch. But Shauna completely like reverse Uno cards her. She's like, no, you. Because Callie's like, okay, if you want me to keep this a secret, your little affair, I get to do wherever I want. I get to like, stay out late. I get to do as many Ubers as I want, da da da. And Shauna's like, okay, fine. All right, you can go ahead and tell your dad, but what's going to happen if, your dad gets divorced? And she just goes in this whole spiel about what's going to happen if, your dad and I get divorced. And then at the end, after she's done breaking Callie's spirit, she calls Jeff in and she's like, Callie has something she wants to tell you. And Callie just kind of is like, yeah, I did substances at the club last night. And she just backs down. She's like, all right, mom, you won. You won that one. Nat and Misty end up getting access to Kevin's files after Nat and Misty threaten one of Misty's like online connections. She's in like this whole group that likes to investigate crimes online. And so they meet up with this guy and they threaten to light him on fire. And he breaks into Kevin's files and they get that information. Nat ends up calling Tysa to fill her in what's going on. They call Shauna and then they decide they got to get back together as a group and solve this mystery. We get a flashback in the beginning of Lottie as a child. She's in the car with her parents and they're arguing, not really paying attention. And she screams. And when she screams, her dad slams on the brakes. As he slams on the brakes, the person who is next to them goes through, and then a truck breezes through the red light and just crashes right into that car, which would have been their car if they had continued going. From that point forward, her mother believes that she has supernatural powers, that she's like a prophet or something. And her father is like, no, she's just like mentally unwell. We need to like get her into therapy and treatment. So we kind of see where Lottie like started and that there might be something more to Lottie as a character. She also decides that she is going to talk to Laura Lee about her visions, and she starts talking to Laura Lee about God, because she's just really scared of what happened to her during the seance. She's scared of what's going on. She knows there's something in the woods and she can't get anybody to believe her. And so Laura Lee, explains, some stuff to her about the Bible and then decides that she wants to baptize her. So they go out and she gets baptized. Shauna shares with Tysa that the baby is actually Jeff's, and then she does try to end the pregnancy, but she's unable to go through it with it. Even though Tysa offered to help her, she's unable to go through with it. So while food is getting scarce and they're not really finding things to, hunt anymore, Travis and Nat are starting to get closer and closer than ever. They're starting to be a lot more romantic with each other, and there's a little bit of an exchange of like personal histories with their like love life. And while they're doing that, at one point, Travis spots a deer and he's like, oh, okay. They get the deer, everyone's excited. And when they bring the deer back to camp and they open it up, it is infested with maggots. In 2021, Nat and Tysa go into more detail of like what happened to to Travis when they're talking to Shauna. They're really just kind of like letting her know, that there was something weird going on. There was like a ritual kind of going on with the situation. They let her know about the fact that he left a note for he left a note for Nat about something, like tell Nat she was right. So they're filling Shauna in on all of that. Tysa and Simone take Sammy to a child psychologist who explains to them that Sammy is under a lot of stress, and that further pushes Simone to want to get Tysa out of this race. However, Tysa starts sleepwalking again. Now we do see a couple of moments in previous episodes where Tysa's caught sleepwalking in the wilderness, and she does weird stuff when she's sleepwalking. One of the things she does a lot is eating dirt, and she'll have dirt under her fingernails and she doesn't know how it got there when she wakes up. She begins to sleepwalk again as an adult, and she wakes up and she freaks out by it. She's eating dirt again. And then she realizes that she's the lady in the tree that Sammy was talking about. So that she's been sleepwalking this entire time and tormenting her son, which is terrible. Nat begins to spend a lot more time with Kevin and kind of like get closer to him, definitely trying to manipulate him into getting information. And finally, Misty does what Misty does. She kidnaps Jessica, the reporter, and locks her in her basement. Just Misty being Misty, I guess. Now, Tysa's well aware that winter is coming. Wrong show. And she has the thought to start traversing the woods to hopefully find an exit and maybe find like a house or a street, something that can get them help. Most of the group is like, that is the dumbest thing we've ever heard, Tysa. You'll end up dying out there. But she does end up convincing Van, Misty, Aquila, and Mari. Obviously, she convinces Van because her and Van are girlfriends at this time. So they go with her to try and find help by exiting the woods. Now, before they leave, Lottie gives Van a necklace, sort of like an amulet, saying that it should help them while they're on their journey. And then she also tells them she had a vision of a river of blood and red smoke. And that really spooks Van. This is where Van just starts to sort of become enamored with Lottie in this way. Now, unsurprisingly, while they're, walking through the woods trying to find the exit, they come across a river that is very, very red. They deduce that it could be the minerals in the water that's making it that color, but I don't know. It was very red. Later that evening, while Tysa is, keeping watch and the rest of the girls are sleeping, the camp is attacked by wolves. And it is a very, very like brutal attack. The girls are trying to fight them off. She shoots off a flare gun while one of them is mauling Van. And when they finally get the wolf off of Van and they roll her over, a big chunk of her face is missing. It's pretty bad. Back at the cabin, Shauna finally admits to Jackie that she's pregnant, but she lies about who the father is. She says that it's Jeff's best friend, Randy. And Jackie still doesn't believe her, so she goes and reads her diary and she finds out that Shauna and Jeff have been hooking up behind her back. Yikes. In 2021, Nat, Shauna, and Tysa, who are being blackmailed at this point now, they gather up $50,000 and give it to this blackmailer. Nat sells her car to give $50,000 to the blackmailer. So they have this whole sting plan where they put a tracker in the bag and then they like take it to the drop off point, they drop it there, and then they go from there. Well, this guy is like one step ahead of them. He ends up like taking the bag apart, and then they start to chase this dude down. They're chasing him through this like crafting store, and he's just running. He's got a mask on his face, so you don't know who he is. And finally, at one point, he falls and gets covered in glitter. That's important. Remember that. And he gets up, manages to run away, and as he's running away, Nat pulls out a weapon and fires a round from that weapon. That weapon is Kevin's, who is a police officer. Keep that in mind. Misty torments and tortures Jessica under the impression that she's the blackmailer, but Jessica then reveals that no, she's not a reporter. She was actually hired by Tysa to find out if anyone had spoken about what was going on in the woods because she didn't want it to hurt her campaign. And so Misty still doesn't believe it. Misty still thinks that she's the blackmailer. And she just continuously tortures her, and like it's not brutal, but she's just like annoying. She's just like really annoying. So yeah, there's definitely like she definitely still believes that she's a blackmailer, but it's revealed that Jessica is, like I guess you could say she's like an informant. I guess that's the best way to say it. She's like an informant. Now Shauna ends up going home after the sting and finding that Adam is there waiting for her, and they have a little back and forth argument, but then she brings him into the house and sleeps with him in her own bed. But in the morning, she hears Jeff pull up and she freaks out and hides Adam in the closet until Jeff goes to shower. And finally, Kevin learns that Nat took his weapon and fired it. And he's like, as a police officer, I am, responsible for every single bullet that is fired from this. And she's like, well, I was walking and I just took it for safety. And then I was playing with it and then it went off, like just like saying that, which he doesn't believe. So then he tries to be like, what happened to you? Like, why are you like this? Like, we need, you can talk to me. And then she's just like, yeah, no, I'm not really interested in you though. And they have like a really, really like bad back and forth where she just basically admits that she was using him, and Kevin leaves, and that's the end of their romance. Taisa, Misty, Akila, and Mari decide to burn Van, but while they're starting up the fire, Van comes to, revealing she survived the wolf attack. So Van is still alive, her eyes open, and Taisa and the rest of the girls decide to bring her back to the camp so she can get patched up. Nat and Travis do try to become more intimate with one another, but Travis like freaks out. He's not really ready because he's never done that before, and he storms off. Later, while talking to Jackie, she reveals that Nat actually had been intimate with Travis's bully, and that ends their budding relationship. Nat talks to Ben about the whole situation because she's just like going through it, and then while she's talking to him, she mentions something about Misty not being his type, and then he was like, well, yeah, I'm a teacher. Da, da, da. And then she's like, well, I meant like, you're gay, right? And that's when we find out that Ben is actually gay. Matt knows. She knows. And then finally, Laura Lee, our good Christian Laura Lee, she has had enough of waiting for them to essentially just die in the woods. So she says, listen, I've been combing through this manual for days and days on end. I am going to fly this plane. And at first everyone's like, you can't do that. And Ben is like, you can't do that. But she's like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. It's going to work. Don't worry. So she goes and starts flying the plane. And at first she does take off and she's in the air and everyone's excited. But then as she's flying, her teddy bear that she had with her lights on fire, and then the plane just explodes. And that's the end of Laura Lee. Which is really sad because I liked Laura Lee, even though she was kind of cringe at times. And also they gave her a badass moment where she drops an F-bomb because of course with her being, super religious, she doesn't cuss, but she drops an F-bomb and everybody's like and I do love that moment when she drops the F-bomb because she's just like, she's like, I mean business now. Like, we're not playing anymore. This is serious. But yeah, rest in peace, F in the chat for Laura Lee. Gone too soon. 2021, Nat almost relapses from her substance issues, but Misty, who put a hidden camera in her hotel room, sees this, goes to the hotel, does all the substances for her, and is like, I'm not going to let you ruin your progress. And then, of course, Nat is like, how did you even know I was doing this? And she's like, hidden camera. And Nat freaks out and is like, leave me alone, Misty. I never want to talk to you again. And so Misty's like, fine. And again, she just took a lot of substances. So good luck, Misty. But before Misty leaves, Misty lets Nat know that somebody the day before Travis's passing emptied out his bank account. So his bank account was completely cleaned out, which really confuses Nat and prompts her to go to her former NA meeting and meet her former sponsor Susie, who does not like her. It's clear they have bad history. They have a bad history going on. She then tries to get Susie to give her Kevin's information from his bank account, but Susie's like, I can't do that. Like, that's going to get me in trouble at my job. So then Nat's like, okay, yeah, you're right. You can't do that. That makes a lot of sense. But, like, what if I told them that, we used to buy substances with money that you stole from the bank? And she's like, okay, I'll look into it then. She actually says, I wish I'd never met you. That's what she says. I was like, I wish I'd never met you, which valid. Taisa eventually confides in Simone about her sleepwalking, and she begs Simone to take Sammy and go to her mother's house because she's afraid that she's going to hurt them. She thinks she might have done something to their dog, Biscuit. It's pretty sad, unfortunately. Shauna, while cleaning out the house, discovers that the safe where she keeps all of her old journals from the wilderness was emptied. All the journals are gone. And then she finds a speck of glitter. And she goes, oh my goodness, I really think that it might have been Adam, And now she's like, oh my God, I let this man in the house and I slept with him. So she goes to Adam's apartment to confront him, and it does not go well. But we'll pick that up in the next episode. The group decides to have a Doomcoming party since they'll miss their actual homecoming dance. Mari takes some mushrooms from Misty's stash for a stew, not realizing they are hallucinogenic mushrooms. So everyone in the group except for Jackie, consumes the stew and ends up on a very bad trip. Now, Jackie seduces Travis in a bid not to be a virgin anymore before she dies, and they get intimate. Ben and Nat go off and have like a really nice chat about love and life, and she confides in him that she's fallen in love with Travis, and he's kind of telling her that she needs to go to him, while they're tripping, of course. Misty goes off to find Ben and hears him talking to Nat about love, and she assumes that he's talking about her, and she gets really excited. She goes running up to him and tells him that they can be together. She tries to kiss him, and then he's just like, "I'm gay," and she's like, "Oh, whoops." The rest of the group go off to confront Jackie after she took Travis from Nat, and they all leave Javi, who also consumed the stew. And remember, he is like a child. They leave him alone, and something ends up really freaking him out, and he takes off through the woods, and he's just gone. The group ends up locking Jackie in a closet, and then they attempt to assault Travis, frightening him, into running away. And then they follow him, howling like wolves. When the group finally does catch him, they bring him back, and Lottie orders Shauna to slit his throat. But Nat and Jackie eventually come and put a stop to it all. In 2021, Shauna kills Adam after accusing him of being the blackmailer. And this is the where I was telling you about the scene where it goes from her as an adult to her as a kid. So when she stabs Adam and she pulls, you see the point of view, like you see it like from the other side of her, like like from behind, and so you see her stabbing him. But then when she pulls the knife out, it cuts to in like behind Adam, and it's Sophie, and then it cuts back and it's Melanie, and it's such a cool little scene. But yeah, it's just kind of showing how her psyche, she's still kind of trapped in that mindset from when she was caught in the wilderness. You got to imagine something like that would stunt your mental growth, like truly. But after she kills Adam, she realizes something that she didn't think of before. Jeff actually has access to the safe, and he knows that the journals are in there. So she confronts him and finds out that Jeff was never having an affair. Jeff's business was going into debt and about to shut down. So he decided to blackmail Tysa into giving him $50,000. He didn't ever expect that she was going to get roped into it, and he just figured it would be Tysa and that would be it. He didn't expect that to happen. So then Shauna not only admits to her affair, but she also admits to killing the guy she was having an affair with. And Jeff, I mean, I gotta say something. Jeff is a real one, because he just immediately was like, all right, listen, like, we gotta figure something out. Like, we gotta figure, he didn't, say, I don't want no part of this. Whatever. He just, he just stayed on that. So after the whole thing, that whole thing happens with Shauna and Jeff, Shauna tells Tysa and Nat that Adam was the blackmailer and that she, in a fit of rage, killed him. And they're like, well, we got to get rid of the body. Like, we can't, have this body here. And Nat's like, damn it, I got to go talk to Misty. So she goes to Misty's house, knocks on the door, and she talks to Misty, and she's like, we need your help with something. And they bring Misty back, and she's like, yep, I gotta help you guys dispose of a body. This is the final episode in season 1. And this episode is it's great. I love this episode. So Van really gets into Lottie's like supernatural power. She really believes that Lottie is like some sort of prophet. And Tysa is just like not having it. She's like, there is no way that this is really going on. Because again, Ty is the logical one. She's like, there's no way this is real. But Van is like, no, something is going on here. Lottie knows something, and we should listen to her. We should trust her. So that becomes a problem with them too in the relationship. But Lottie proves even more that she's sort of like a prophet type person, because a bear wanders into her camp, and she had said that they weren't going to be hungry for long. And when the bear wanders into their camp, the bear's not really like attacking or doing anything. He just kind of wanders in, and she effortlessly kills the bear, and now they're no longer hungry. Travis and Nat go off to find Javi, who, like I said in the last episode, ran off when all that chaos ensued. And during that time, Travis not only admits that he was intimate with Jackie, which Nat doesn't care about, she's more concerned about the fact that there was a knife held to his throat. and she wants to make sure that he's okay. But then he admits that he's fallen in love with Nat, and it's a nice moment where they kind of realize they both love each other. While the group feasts on the bear, Jackie refuses to eat and then confronts the group about their behavior the night before. She basically is just like, you guys were out of line, that was like ridiculous, you can't do that, and then they're like, well, we don't even really remember what happened the night before. And someone mentions the shrooms, like, oh yeah, the shrooms, like we had the shrooms in the stew. And then Mari's like, the what? And she's like, oh, I took those from Misty. So they all blame Misty for for getting them all dosed up, which I don't think that's fair, because even though Misty shouldn't have had those mushrooms and she had them for nefarious reasons, she was going to use them on Ben. um I don't think that's fair, because Mari just took something from Misty's things without even asking and then just dropped it in the stew. So personally, I think that's more Mari's fault. But even though the group blames Misty and tries to throw everything on her, Jackie's just not, she's not feeling it. She's not having it. She then confronts Shauna and tells her that she knows about her and Jeff, and they get into a nasty argument where insults are flung at each other, and Shauna finally kind of says like that she's tired of being like Jackie's sidekick, and then kicks her out of the cabin. Like it's really funny, because while they're arguing and Shauna's saying all this mean stuff to Jackie, Jackie just screams get out and points to the door, and I'm like, excuse me, ma'am, this is not your house. You can't just say get out of this cabin that we're all in. So Shauna's like, no, you get out, get out. So Jackie does leave. um Later on that night, Jackie gets let back in by Shauna. She gets handed a cup, and she realizes it's hot chocolate, and then she starts to realize that something is off with the group, the way they're looking at her, the way they're talking to her. It's just not normal. And then she turns and she sees Laura Lee standing there, and Laura Lee tells her it feels just like falling asleep. And she realizes in that moment that she's dying. Shauna wakes up, and to her absolute dismay, the whole entire land is covered in snow. She freaks out. She gets up, runs downstairs, runs outside, but finds that it's too late. She digs Jackie's corpse up from out of the snow, and Jackie has unfortunately frozen to death. Back to 2021, the gang cleans up Adam's crime scene, and they dismember the body, they get rid of all the evidence, and they think they got away with it. Shauna's back with Jeff, everything's great. And then while she's sitting down with Callie watching TV, a report comes up that somebody is looking for Adam. So unfortunately, Shauna is not out of the woods yet. The group does attend their 25-year high school reunion, and of course they're treated like celebrities because they're the girls who survived the crash. Now, Randy, who's Jeff's best friend, was in on Jeff's plan about blackmailing Tysa, and Shauna, when she runs into Randy, is like, if you ever do that again, I will kill you. And she says it in a crazier way, and like, just again, very a power move for Shauna, her being this little housewife but then being like that unhinged. I love the duality of that. Nat starts to come to the reality that Travis likely did do it to himself, and it really hurts her, because she talks about how they had a promise that they would never do that, given everything that they've experienced, that they would never do that. So it's really hard for her to reconcile with the fact that Travis did that to himself. Simone, Tysa's wife, goes home to pick up a few things, but while she's there, she notices a strange smell, and she goes into the basement. She opens a crawl space, and finds an altar with the severed head of the dog Biscuit, Sammy's doll that he was carrying around earlier in the season, and what looks to be a human heart on an altar, and it freaks her out, rightfully so. So after the 25-year reunion, Misty finally agrees to release Jessica. They kind of have a little bond now, and she's like, okay, just don't tell anybody about what happened, and like Jessica's like, oh no, I won't, don't worry about it. As Jessica's leaving, Misty hands her purse, and Jessica's going through the purse, and she realizes her cigarettes aren't in there. Misty's like, oh, I threw them out because it's a bad habit. And like, Jessica's like, come on now, Misty. So Misty's like, okay. She picks up the pack out of the trash can and gives it back to her. Jessica gets in the car, she lights up a cigarette, she starts driving, and then she realizes she can't breathe. And then she looks at the cigarette and realizes Misty poisoned the cigarette and she dies. Uh, Probably should have let her throw out you should have let her throw out the cigarettes and just bought a new pack. Like, she literally watched her poison chocolates or like a few episodes previous. I would not have taken anything from Misty like that I could ingest. I would just be like, nope, not taking anything from Misty. Now, meanwhile, Tysa wins the Senate race. She thought she was going to lose. She was writing her concession speech, and she actually wins the Senate race. And while Nat is contemplating joining Travis, she's really contemplating just doing away with herself. A mysterious group breaks in and kidnaps her. As she's carried out, her phone it falls on the bed, and the phone's ringing, and it's Susie. We get to hear a voicemail from Susie, and she's telling them she looked into who drained Travis's bank account, and she said there's a lot of really weird stuff going on. And then she says, who the hell is Lottie Matthews? Which gives us our reveal that Lottie is also a survivor. We didn't get to see her as an adult yet, but we will. But Lottie is also a survivor. The season ends with Lottie, Van, and Misty as teens placing the bear's heart on a shrine as an offering to whatever lives in the woods, as Lottie says, sort of a dark prayer. And that's the end of season 1 of Yellowjackets. If you could not tell, it is the next day because, like I said, it was going to take 2 days to do this. I was trying to protect my voice, and also I just didn't want to do it all in one sitting like I normally do, so I didn't go super duper late. But I hope you enjoyed my synopsis of each episode. I know I probably left out a lot of details, but that's okay. I hit the most important points. But now we're going to kind of go through. I have like 3 ways that I'm going to do this review part now. So we're going to start with the characters, my little bit of character analysis. Then we're going to move on to the episodes, which episodes I thought were the strongest and which episodes I thought were the weakest, and then overall, what did I think of season 1. So let's get into the characters, and we're going to start with Jackie. So Jackie, for me, when I first watched the show, I kind of liked her, but this time watching the show, I didn't like her at all. I feel like, she is valid in a lot of her criticisms and a lot of the things that she says and a lot of the things that she feels. But I feel like once they were in the wilderness, I feel like she just kind of gave up in a way. Like, she just kind of gave up. And I get that, you have to have characters that kind of represent all sides, but she just kind of gave up, and then she kind of wanted everybody else to feel the same way as she felt. Really proving just how helpless she was. I thought that the one thing I did like about Jackie's character was that they showed that she wasn't perfect. They're in this disaster scenario, and she basically breaks down, and she's like kind of useless. That's the best way to put it. She's kind of useless. Um, but there are certain things I don't like. I don't like the way she treats the majority of the girls. I really don't like the way she treats Shauna, even though I'm not crazy about Shauna either. I really do not like the way that she treats Shauna. It's very apparent that she thinks less of Shauna than a person should. And she reminds me of people I was friends with in school, where I was the Shauna in a sense, kind of. Not stealing people's boyfriends, but I was sort of the sidekick and they were sort of like the main character. She reminds me a lot of those types of people, where she just thinks that her shit don't stink. That's the best way to put it. And she ends up like being put in this disaster scenario, and she's the only one that isn't coping well. That being said, at the end of the show, her death was, or the end of the season, her death was incredibly sad. It was heartbreaking, especially seeing Shauna's reaction, because they were longtime best friends. And it could have been avoided. It could have been avoided if Jackie had just, instead of being confrontational in a disaster scenario, if she had just confronted like Shauna privately and had that conversation. But we have to remember, these are teenagers. They're not going to really think logically. So it makes sense that she just kind of lashed out in front of everybody and went a little bit off. She went off. She popped off on everybody. Overall, Jackie's probably one of my least favorites of the main Yellowjackets that we get to see. But I would have liked to see who would have played her if she did live. There's a lot of fan cast for that, but I'll let you guys sound off on who you think should have played her. Next, we have Shauna. Now, Shauna, she's a mixed bag for me, because I really like her characterization. I think both actresses are fantastic, but I just don't really care for her character. Um, Especially as a teenager. At least in this season, I didn't care for her character as a teenager. She definitely does feel like a sidekick. Like there's no other way to put it. She definitely feels like a sidekick in the first season. Whereas the adult version of her, I like her a little bit more because we're really seeing sort of the inner workings, like I mentioned in my episode review. We're seeing sort of the inner workings of a woman who went through a ton of trauma when she was a kid, and then grows up, decides to be like a stay-at-home mom. We don't really know her story. We don't know if she had a career before, or and she made the choice, but she decides to be a stay-at-home mom, but she's still struggling with everything that happened to her in the wilderness. It's even from like the first episode when she's like forgets to take out the meat for dinner, and she looks out into her garden and sees a bunny that's hopping around, and she decides to just kill, skin, and gut the bunny and cook the bunny. Um just out of nowhere, and that's because that's what she did in the wilderness. So, oh, the meat isn't defrosted, well, I guess I'll just pull a bunny from the front garden and just slaughter it. And it's even funnier because her husband is like, oh wow, this is really good, like what did you do? She's like, oh, I added a different seasoning. It's like, no, this is rabbit. You're eating rabbit right now, sir. But yeah, she's kind of a mixed bag for me, though. It's like I do really enjoy her character as far as like the actress's performances. Like Sophie's performance, especially at the end when she finds Jackie's body, is chilling. There's another moment in season 2. I don't want to spoil it because we're gonna review it, but there's another moment in season 2 where like she just absolutely she ate in that scene. Her acting is so good. She's really good at like um like the intense moments. Like she really brings up the intense moments. um but yeah, Shauna overall as a character, she's kind of mid for me. She's kind of one of those characters I just really don't resonate with, and she just feels like a sidekick in season 1 especially. Then we have Natalie, or Nat, as she's known. As I stated before, Nat is literally my favorite character in the show. That is the reason why I started to really like Sophie Thatcher as a performer, and started to want to see like everything that she was in because I just really love her portrayal of this character. Nat is a character that I probably would have wanted to be when I was in high school. I'm not even gonna lie. The grungy, the rocker chick. Like I really wanted that aesthetic. But overall, Nat is a very kind person. Even as an adult with all of her flaws, she still has this like softness to her. There's moments where Juliette Lewis really like comes forward and shines. There's moments where she is like really sensitive and soft, and it's such a, like a flip from her being really really like brash and abrasive and just kind of like demanding, a little bit, to like seeing these moments where she breaks down, where she's thinking about Travis and she's having these like really tough moments. And then like Nat as as a teenager, she is absolutely just like, you can tell that she's trying to sort of figure things out in the first season with this wilderness drama, but then she kind of bonds with Travis, and I guess in a way that kind of is like a it eases the tension of the situation because she has something to fight for, she has something to live for, which is Travis. So Nat is an awesome character. I love her so much, and that she's easily my favorite character in the whole show. Then we have Misty. I've said it multiple times in this video, and I'm going to say it again. If her favorite character is Misty, run. Misty is probably the worst character so far in this show, and not the worst because the performances of the actresses are bad, but the worst because she is just so infuriating to watch. I do like the duality of her being incredibly nerdy, especially when Christina Ricci is playing her being incredibly like nerdy and unassuming, but then also being incredibly dangerous. I do like that duality. It's almost like the pop, when people say like about serial killers, like you never know like who's actually doing that, and there's always somebody who's completely unassuming. I like that factor of Misty. I think that that's really cool, and she's smart as hell. She's kind of, in my opinion, the most resourceful Yellowjacket in the entire show. But my God, is she annoying, especially with the Coach Ben stuff. Like, there's one scene, I'm not gonna go into detail about it because it's a little not safe for work, but there's one scene where she goes into the room and she sees him sleeping, and it was so inappropriate. And I'm not saying that, like, kids don't get crushes on teachers, and I do like the fact that they didn't lean into that and do like a teacher student romance thing. I like the fact that they made Ben gay, so he's like, Ben gay. That they made him gay so that he was kind of like, nope. Even if I was a creep, I'm not going to be a creep to you because you're not my type. But they really do solidify that Ben is not that kind of guy, regardless. So I really, I really like that fact of it. But Misty was just so annoying, and even with the breaking of the emergency locator beacon, that pissed me off. It's like, I get it. You're kind of, people are kind of looking to you for survival tips because you kind of sprung into action the minute that stuff happened, but you cannot. I mean, I'm gonna put it to you this way: she single-handedly doomed these people, and the deaths that happen in future seasons are her fault. I don't even care. She's responsible for Laura Lee and she's responsible for Jackie. Even though Shauna's technically responsible for Jackie because she kicked Jackie out, she's responsible for all of that because she broke the emergency locator. She broke that. They could have been saved maybe within a day or two or a couple of days. And then gotten home and didn't have to survive for 18 months in the wilderness. No, Misty wanted to flex her muscles and show how amazing she is because people were actually being responsive to her for the first time. I don't fault her for feeling that way, but she definitely is a very manipulative, very vindictive, very cutthroat person. And she's like my least favorite character in the show, but she's also fun to watch because she is just really, really like kind of scary, but kind of kind of funny at the same time. After that, we have Lottie. Now, right now, obviously, we find out at the end of the season that Lottie is still alive. Right now, we only know Lottie as as a teenager. Lottie as a teenager, I will say this: she is incredibly unassuming for most of the season until she starts to have these prophetic visions when she runs out of her medication. I will say this about Lottie: so far, from what I've seen in season one, because season two is fuzzy to me. There's some parts I remember and some parts I don't. So far, I'm not a big fan of Lottie. I know I've seen some people in the fandom, they say they would die for Lottie. I'm not a big fan of Lottie. I think Lottie is very, very sick. And I think that she ropes everybody into her psychosis. Now, until they reveal that there was something in the woods, which I don't know if there is or not, it's very ambiguous if there was a monster or some supernatural force. Right now, all I'm seeing from my standpoint is a young woman who has some form of mental illness, who is now off of her medication in a dire situation, and she just pulls everyone into her psychosis, which is incredibly dangerous. And as we eventually see in the episode, the Doom Coming episode, how she basically orders everybody to kill Travis, and everyone's like cool with it. Everyone's gonna go along with it. It's really, I just really don't like her. Now again, I don't really remember season two, and I the one thing I do remember is what she's like as an adult in season two. I'm not gonna tell you because I'm gonna do a video about it and it's a spoiler, but I do remember that. And it is, I'll just say this, it's very on brand to who she is as a teenager. So we'll talk more about Lottie when we do season two because she's kind of an underdeveloped character in the first season, but in the second season they really expand on her lore. Then we have my second favorite character, Van or Vanessa. We're sticking with Van here. Van is also kind of an underdeveloped character. She's a kind of an undeveloped character. She's sort of in the beginning like the butch tough girl, and she's sort of just like Tyssa's like sidekick because they're in a relationship. They like each other, so they're in this relationship, and like that's pretty much what defines Van at this point. Um, Van's character is so, like, just like I said in the episode review, she's funny. She has like the best comebacks, and her surviving that wolf attack made me so happy because when I saw that the first time, I was like, "Oh my god, they're not going to kill off one of my favorite characters like this early in." So I was so happy when the next episode started with her coming to, and they took her back and sewed her face shut. She got a really cool freaking scar. I can tell you that. It's a story to tell. I can tell you that. Again, Van is an underdeveloped character compared to the rest of the characters, so we don't get a lot of time with her. Then we have Tysa. Tysa is. I'm conflicted about Tysa. On the one hand, I love her tenacity. I love the fact that she kind of really thinks logically and she doesn't get wrapped up in too much of the psychosis that's going on. Everybody's like losing their minds in the forest. Like she doesn't get wrapped up in that too much. So I really do like that. But on the other hand, I also don't like how she downplays her own role in a lot of things. She sort of doesn't like to admit, and also she does a lot of shady stuff as an adult. Hiring Jessica Roberts to basically like get info on your old classmates who you went through a super traumatic event like with. She basically is like trauma bonded to these women forever, and she's so concerned about the state senate race that she hires somebody who's like as Jessica calls it, she's a fixer. She hires a fixer to go and spy on her, her former classmates who were in this plane crash, just in case anybody leaked anything that would get would get Ty to not win the state senate. Um, I don't know. I just feel like it's really shady. She does a lot of shady stuff. And then also the way she treats her family, the way she treats her wife. While she does do things with the intention to protect both of them, she also, again, downplays her role in their, their, like, I don't want to say trauma, but their, like, discomfort. That's the best way to put it. Their discomfort. And then as a teenager, again, I do like her tenacity, but sometimes she is just a straight up bitch. She's just a straight up bitch. She is just nasty sometimes in the show. And breaking Allie's leg, that was not cool. That was not cool. She is very, very like cut through, and I do like that about her, but at the same time I also am like, okay, we need to see a little bit of a softer side to Tysa because we're not really seeing that too much yet. And another issue I have is because she is black. I don't want them to lean too much into the strong black woman character. Like, she doesn't get affected emotionally by anything that's going on. She's just like, let's go, let's go. Because I like when you show nuance in characters. I trust this show because so far is so far so good with their racial representation. There's a lot of representation in the show. It feels real, it feels not real like the show itself, but it's like when you're looking at the Yellowjackets team, they all come from different walks of life. They're all different types of girls, and it's not just like cookie cutter all blonde white girls. It's like every race, and it feels like if you were in an actual high school or if you were to open your high school yearbook and look at the girls soccer team, you would see a lot of these different types of girls. So I think that that's cool, and I just hope that they don't lean into that too much with Tysa, because especially with Tysa being, growing up to be a lawyer to win the state senate, all of that, I do want to see her be a little bit more vulnerable. Like I said, I don't really remember season 2 that much. We're gonna get to it. After that, I'm gonna kind of veer off and we're going to talk about Laura Lee, because I didn't put Laura Lee on this list of characters, but we got to talk about Laura Lee. Um, Despite the fact that I really dislike when they when they have hyper religious characters in movies and shows like this, the character that's like, oh, because to me they're always the doomsday character. They're always the end of the world character. I think about The Mist, right? The movie The Mist. I cannot remember the lady's name. I'm blanking on it right now, but the super crazy evangelical lady that is locked in the grocery store with them, that literally wants to throw a child to the aliens. Like, anytime they have a super religious character, the super religious character is like the most problematic person. They're the ones that want to like give everything up to, to God, and like throw everybody under the bus. So I was a little bit worried about Laura Lee, but even though Laura Lee was kind of a background character, she still had like moments where she did shine. Like I said, when she dropped that F-bomb at the end of her, right before she passed, I thought that was really cool. It seemed like she had layers, and I really wish we would have gotten more time with Laura Lee. Maybe we'll get a flashback and she'll pop up. I really wish we would have gotten more time with her, because there was more to her than just the religious girl, the religious girl. And she did seem to really care about the team. Like there was no judgment about who they were. Like truly there was no judgment about who they were. It was just like this is who you are, I love you just the same. She wasn't preaching. She wasn't telling everybody like, "Oh, you need to give over to God." She would pray, but she wasn't forcing everybody else to pray. And I kind of liked that they had this religious character who was incredibly incredibly religious, but she didn't force on anybody. The only time that we saw her kind of pushing religion was when Lottie came to her and explained that she wanted to understand more about God, which is what I like to see because as somebody, I mean, I have friends who are Christian, and as somebody who's not very spiritual, the reason why I'm friends with these people is because they don't try to convert me. They don't try to change my mind. They respect that I believe differently than them, and that's how it should be. As long as we're all being nice to each other, who cares what you believe? Like I said in the Heretic video, you can believe in this flying spaghetti monster, and that's totally cool. Um, so I really, really did like Laura Lee, which is crazy to say because normally those types of characters like irritate me because they're always the most problematic in the movie or in the show, but she really cared, and all the way up till the end when she decided she was going to fly this plane and basically ended up being her coffin. And it's really sad that we didn't get more time with Laura Lee. So big ups, rest in peace, Laura Lee. Um, Now let's talk about the boys a little bit. And we're going to talk about the boys. We're not going to go into too much detail. I'm not going to really talk about Javi because we don't get like a lot of time with Javi. He's a little kid. Probably, I think he's supposed to be like in middle school, so he's like a little kid. He's not. He's just kind of a background character. Travis is interesting. I like Travis. I like his character, but at the same time, I also don't like his character. It's kind of hard to explain. I think his character is well written, and he definitely does feel like a teenage boy, which is crazy to know that he's played by a 33-year-old man. He was not 33 at the time; he was 30 at the time when he played this role. Maybe 29, maybe 29, depending on when they filmed it. Um, but yeah, he does really feel like a teenage boy. He has that awkwardness, but he tries to cover it up by acting like he's too cool for everybody. But he's definitely incredibly awkward, and we see that in the moments where he's alone with Nat, and even the moment where he's alone with Jackie. I feel bad for Travis. I think that's what it is. Is I feel really bad for Travis because he is the only boy stuck in the wilderness with all of these girls, and while some men out there would be like, "Oh, that's my dream," like that would have been my dream, like these girls are not okay. And he's pretty much like caught in the crossfire, especially in the episode when they like all have their periods at the same time and they're all yelling at him. He's like, what is going on? I can only imagine what that felt like for a teenage boy who probably like from the looks of it, he probably didn't have a lot of experience with girls. I mean, he didn't have a lot of experience with girls. So he probably just was, not like super experienced. I do feel bad that his older version died. We didn't really get to meet his older version. We only got to see his death, and then we also got to see like a quick flashback of him and Nat. I think you see a little bit more of him in season 2. I don't know. I hope we get more of him because I would like to see how he was as an adult. I know that he also has substance abuse issues, so I would like to see how that transpired, and I also want to know more about his character. Aside from that, we also have Ben. Ben is the coach, like I said, and Ben is completely overruled by these girls all the time. I actually really like Ben. I actually really like Ben. Like I said before, they when they had Misty become infatuated with him, I was really worried what direction they were going to go in, and that would have turned me off from the show entirely. But the fact that they had Ben like yes, he did at one point be like, "Oh yeah, we're boyfriend and girlfriend, but you can't tell anybody." It was really for survival. It was for survival because you just literally saw him puke after she gave him tea. So he's just like, okay, she tried to poison me. I better do what she says because she might kill me. Like, that's how scared he is of this girl. And he never gets intimate with her. He never kisses her. He never touches her. She tries to force herself on him a lot and he pulls away. So I was really happy that they didn't go with that storyline because as soon as they started hinting at it, I was like, Are they going to do a Pretty Little Liars? I really hope they're not going to do a Pretty Little Liars. If they get the teacher and the student together, I'm out. I'm shutting this show off. I'm done with this because I hate teacher student romance. That is normalizing grooming. So, yeah, I'm really glad that they had him stand on business. I also like the fact that he was gay, but he wasn't a stereotype. I do know, and it's not really a spoiler too much, but I do know that we do get a flashback um, of Ben and his partner Paul in season 2, and even then he's still not a stereotype. I liked that he felt like just a regular guy, but he was gay at the same time. um I do feel for him, as well as Travis, because he's the adult, and actually I feel for him a little bit more than Travis because he's the adult in this situation. He's a grown ass man who just went through a traumatic plane crash, lost his leg, and now he can't even get his team to calm the hell down. He's just like, okay, I don't know what's going on. These girls are going crazy, and I can't stop them. And he just has to kind of accept it. Even like in the end, like in the end of season 1, when Shauna and Jackie are arguing, like Ben tries to reel them in and be like, stop, and they're just like, no, we don't have to listen to you. We're in the wilderness. This is wilderness rules now. So, I feel for him. I really do feel for him. That is a tough situation to be in, and I do really like his character. And last but not least, we have to talk about Shauna's husband, Jeff. Now, Jeff is kind of the reverse of some of these characters. We don't get a lot of time with Jeff as a teenager than we do as an adult because obviously Shauna marries Jeff. So the only times we see Jeff is during the really awkward encounter with Jackie in the beginning of the first episode and then later hooking up with Shauna as a teenager. But then Jeff as an adult is like, he's such a dunce sometimes, but he's kind of a bit of a ride or die because this woman came to him, told him she was having an affair, and she killed the guy she was having an affair with because she thought he was blackmailing her. And instead of like being mad, going and like saying he wants a divorce, he's just like, okay, we're probably going to go to jail. So let's see if we can figure something out and avoid going to jail. He's kind of a bit of a ride or die. He is a dunce. Blackmailing your wife, or not really your wife. He wasn't trying to blackmail his wife, but blackmailing your wife's former classmate who went through a super traumatic event with you is not necessarily the greatest idea. And then the funny part is Tysa isn't even the one that gave him the $50,000. It was Nat, because Nat sold her car. He didn't think he was going to get roped in, and he had nothing to do with Travis's death. So he was just kind of like, I just wanted money so I could pay off these loan sharks so I could keep my store in business. So yeah, he's a bit of a dunce, but he's kind of a lovable idiot. That's the best way I can put it. He's kind of a lovable idiot. He seems like he really loves Shauna. He seems like he really wants to make things work. And sometimes I dislike the way Shauna treats him because I do think he's a really good man and that he wants what's best for her. So I kind of like Jeff. Jeff is cool. At least season 1 Jeff. Everything I'm saying right now, everything I just said is all about season 1. Season 2 and season 3 are completely different monsters. We will talk about those in the future. So that's pretty much the characters that are important. That's kind of my opinions on each character and how I feel about how they were characterized. I'm so sorry that I keep doing this. My hair will not stop doing this. This wig, I need to flat iron it again. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to fix it so it stops doing that. I'm just gonna tuck it back here. Maybe it won't do that. Okay. I swear I'm not playing with my hair because I think I'm like cute or anything. It just keeps getting in my eyes and it's driving me up the wall. Okay, so let's move on to talking about the episodes. Now, I'm not going to go as in depth as I did earlier, but I am going to talk about my most to least favorite, or actually, we're going to say least to most favorite episode. And I'll explain why. I would have to say that. Someone was detected at your front door. Okay. So I would have to say that the pilot episode is my least favorite episode. I think that's kind of true with a lot of shows. It is really just setting the scene, setting the stage for what's going to come in the in future episodes, and that's cool. That's fine. We got to set the stage. but I definitely think it's one of the weaker episodes, and I don't really know what it was that made me come back. I think it's just because I could binge it, so I was like, okay, like I didn't really like this episode, so I'm gonna go on to the next one, and then we'll see. And if I really can't get into the show by the second episode, I'm turning it off, because that's my rule. If I watch a show and I get to episode 2 and episode 2 finishes and I still don't like it, I'm not going back to it. Except for that show, The Watcher or whatever, the one that everyone was going crazy for in like 2022 or something. I got pretty far through that, but I never finished it. I hated that. I hated that show. But that was only the only reason I got far in that is because I was watching it with somebody else, and they weren't into it either, but they thought I was into it. And then we both kind of came clean and were like, no, we don't like this. So yeah, the pilot episode is definitely the weakest one for me. I would say followed by episode 3. Episode 3, which is The Dollhouse. Um, Not a lot happens, I feel like. It's definitely filler. It's just definitely to get the girls the to the cabin where they're going to be staying, where the rest of the events are going to be taking place. Um, it just felt like a filler episode, really. And after that would be episode 2. F sharp isn't the another one that I'm not crazy about. I think the only reason why I put this one above episode 3 is because of the fact that I do like um the like survival chaos aspect of things. But it is, again, it's another slow going episode, really. The first 3 episodes are definitely just setting the scene, and after that it kind of pops off. My next least favorite episode would be episode 6, Saints. Again, it's another one that feels like it's filler. It has a lot of important information in it, but it does feel like it's filler. And especially going into the whole more religious aspect of things, and Lottie getting baptized, Lottie kind of realizing that she has some sort of power and she can see things. I just, it was a little, it's not a great episode to me. And then the 5th one that I would say is my like less least favorite, is kind of like in the middle, would probably be Bear Down, episode 4. And I think I really like this episode a little bit more than the others. It's still like low on the totem pole for me. I like that episode because I liked the scenes when they were practicing the hunting rifle. There's even with practicing with the hunting rifle, and there's even a really tense moment between Nat and Travis where Nat calls Travis a nickname that a bully had come up with for him, and Travis turns the weapon on her, and it's a very tense moment to see that. And then knowing that they kind of end up together after that, it's like, was that what got you, Nat? Him pointing a weapon in your face? Like, girl. But it is still kind of a little bit of a slower episode. I do actually like the stuff with Shauna and Adam. Watching Shauna do all of the crazy teenage stuff, as a nearly 40-year-old woman, was really cool. I enjoyed that a lot. That was very, very cool. All right, number 5, Blood Hive, is my first one on this list of like my favorite. Not the first one, but like we're going up to my most favorite episode in the season 1. I really liked Blood Hive. I remember that's kind of where I really got into the show, was that episode, because like I liked the other episodes. I was like, okay, these are decent. After the pilot was kind of like, eh. The best part of the pilot was the plane crash at the end, but it was kind of like, but then the rest of the episodes were like, okay, we're going somewhere, we're picking up. This is where it really started to kick up for me, like it really did. The possession scene, like Shauna finding out that she was pregnant. Like, I remember like when they were all talking about their periods, I was like, one of them is pregnant. And then when like Shauna was acting weird, I was like, Shauna's pregnant. Oh my gosh. So yeah, no, I loved that aspect of it. And like I said, I really, really liked the aspect of the possession scene and the seance scene. That was really cool, really well done. And definitely not like it leaves you with this ambiguous thought of, is there something sinister and evil in the woods? I definitely really like the aspect of, is this really happening? Is this actually something that's happening? Is Lottie really possessed, or is she just, you know, playing that up? It's such a good episode. I do like Blood Hive a lot. My next favorite episode after that is Flight of the Bumblebee. Flight of the Bumblebee is where Laura Lee passes. That was a jaw-dropping moment. I knew it was coming when she said she was going to fly the plane. I was like, oh no, don't kill Laura Lee. But that was still a jaw-dropping moment. Because because that was really that was our first casualty in the show. That was our first casualty. And for it to be such a pure and innocent and sweet character, it was really heartbreaking, like really, really heartbreaking. I also think, it's really cool to see Shauna confronting Adam after she realizes that he might be the one that's blackmailing them. Misty and Nat's moments as adults when Misty comes to stop Nat from relapsing. And even though Misty found that out through nefarious reasons because she was spying on her through a hidden camera, she did kind of take one for the team for Nat, and she stopped Nat from ruining her progress. So I thought that was really cool. There's just some great moments. And then, of course, also, I like that episode because that's when we find out that Van is still alive. Okay, so now we're on to my top 3 episodes. So, in third place is the final episode of season 1, Sic Transit Gloria Mundi. This is the episode where Jackie dies. It is a really good episode overall. The argument between Shauna and Jackie was such a powerful moment. And like I said, Sophie's acting when when Shauna goes out and finds Jackie in the snow is so good. It's so heartbreaking, and it really makes you feel the weight of Jackie's death. Even though I didn't like Jackie, that was still a sad moment for me. Um, it was really cool to see the group going back to their high school as adults. There's one part where Nat is standing in the hallway looking at a kind of a trophy case, and it's got the Yellowjackets girls soccer team, and then it has pictures of Travis and pictures of Javi, and it's such a nice little touch for that. And just seeing how they act. I love the moment where Jessica realizes that Misty poisoned her. That's such a good moment. I also think it's really great that Tysa actually wins the Senate race. I did not see that coming. I was fully expecting her not to win the Senate race. So when she won the Senate race, I was like, oh wow, awesome, good for her. And then I really love the not the ending with the heart sacrifice or altar, I don't know. The part of the ending where Nat as an adult is kidnapped by a group, and then we hear the voicemail that Susie left her. When she said, "Who the F is Lonnie Matthews?" Dude, my jaw hit the floor. I was like, Lottie's still alive. Lottie's still alive. I don't know why, but I for sure thought Lottie was gonna die in the woods. I for sure thought she was gonna die in the woods. So when she dropped Lottie's name at the end, dude, my jaw hit the floor. I said, Lottie's alive. Oh my god, because I think in my mind I thought these were the only 4 that survived. Everybody else that we're seeing now is dead. And we come to find out that that's not true when we get that reveal that Lottie's still alive. And I kind of like how they're peppering, they peppered some more people in from that. So that was an amazing way to end the first season. And honestly, I don't think they even needed that scene with Lottie, Van, and Misty as teenagers, doing the sacrifice on the altar. I don't even think they needed that. They could have just ended it with the "Who the F is Lottie Matthews," and then that cut to black, cut to credits. That would have been amazing, because my jaw was on the floor. You can ask my best friend, because she was watching it with me, and I was like, dude, what? You've got to be kidding. You've got to be kidding. It was such a great reveal that Lottie was still alive. That's why it's number 3 for me. It's in third place. The second episode that is my most favorite is No Compass. I liked this episode because of the branching off of the group, but I also liked this episode because of the wolf attack. The wolf attack was intense. It was really, really good. It was incredibly intense. We also have the moment where as adults they see the blackmailer, and they have this really big chase scene. It's probably the most action that we've gotten so far, and it just shows you how ruthless these women are and how tough they are. And Nat pulling the weapon out and pew pew, I love that. And that is also when after Misty had kidnapped Jessica, and she's tormenting her, and we really get to see how unhinged Misty is, as if we didn't know. So there's a lot of great moments in No Compass. Like I said, the wolf attack really was what did it for me, because that was an incredibly tense moment. And like I said, seeing Van just being eaten by a wolf, her face eaten by a wolf, that scared me. It scared me in a way, because it's damn, that happens to people. It's so creepy. It's so terrifying. So yeah, number 2 favorite episode is No Compass. And then my absolute favorite episode, you guys could figure it out, is episode 9, Doom Coming. This is kind of where I said I love the show. This show is ridiculous and I just love it. The whole premise of these girls, after their classmate just died in front of them, deciding to have a dance. Like Jackie's like, let's have a dance. And they're like, oh yeah, yeah, let's have a dance. Getting dressed up in their best dresses because they had dresses for the dinner that was going to be after the nationals and stuff. Getting dressed up in their best dresses and then like standing in the woods with no music, just dancing around. They sing Kiss from a Rose, which is so, it's such a cute moment. And then them getting dosed with the shrooms and seeing them slowly spiral into madness. The moment that we realize that, the girls have completely lost it. Even the moment where Travis, as uncomfortable as it was watching these girls like basically assault this boy. I mean, they didn't go full out. They just were making out with him and touching him a lot. But seeing them assaulting him, like it was a scary, tense moment. And it's when you really start to realize that something is wrong with these girls. Like these girls are losing it. These girls are losing it. And all the way up to the end of um the teen segment when Shauna is instructed by Lottie to slit Travis's throat, and we get that moment where she has the knife pressed up against his throat and you see the blood and you think, oh, that's the end of Travis, and then Nat and Jackie come running in and they're like, what are you doing? It's such a good episode. We also have, like I said, the really awesome moment after Shauna kills Adam, where we get the flip from Melanie to Sophie. That was such a surprise. And you know what's funny? I did not catch that the first time I watched the show. I didn't catch it. I caught it the second time. I was like watching the TV, and I was like, I rewound it. I said, wait a minute, did they flip the actresses? And I was like, that's so clever. I really like that, like showing that her mindset went back to that primal mindset that she had when she was in the woods. Um, I thought that that was really, really great. And then it was kind of where we got to see the Yellowjackets coming back together and planning how they were gonna, do what they needed to do to get rid of the body, because that was the main crux. So Doom Coming is my favorite episode. That's where the show became my favorite. That's where I really started to appreciate and like the show. So that's my rating of the episodes from least favorite to most favorite. And I'm gonna do this with the other two seasons too when we get there. Okay, so now we're on to the big review, the final review. I'm not going to say it's the big review, but the final review of the show. I'm going to give you things I don't like about the show, and then things I love about the show, and then my skull rating. And then we're going to get on out of here because I've talked your ear off about this show. So, there are things I don't like about this show. And actually, crazily enough, I was watching someone on YouTube who mentioned that they were watching Yellowjackets and they brought this up. And this is something that I didn't outwardly criticize, but I kind of like thought it in my head, but I just kind of let it go. And now that he mentioned it, I am kind of raising my eyebrow. Um, while I understand that teenagers do engage in certain activities that are more of the adult nature, I don't think we necessarily need to portray them. I think that that's going a little bit too far. I understand that all the actors are grown adults, they're in their 20s and 30s. I get that, and that's fine, but we don't need to see teenagers naked. We don't need to see teenagers fornicating. We don't need to see that. I think that we as a society need to move away from sexualizing teenagers, even if they are played by adults, because there's still so much disconnect from people's minds that teenagers are kids. That you notice how I kept saying children or child throughout this video, because I have kind of conditioned myself to see teenagers as children. They are children to me. But people like to argue, no, they're not children. They're not children. They're almost adults. No, they are children. They are still children. They are still children. They are still of school age, and we should not be watching even adults, pretending that they're in high school doing those things. That's probably my biggest complaint. There was quite a few scenes of that. When I started to go through it in my head, because when he said it, I was like, well, the only episode I can think of is Doom Coming. And then I started thinking about, I'm like, oh wait, there was that episode. Oh no, wait, there was that episode. Okay, and it happens a few times, and it just doesn't need to happen that much. It doesn't need to happen as much as it does happen. I don't know if they continue doing that in season 2. I don't think they do, because there's really not much they can do since they're in the wilderness and Travis is with Nat. But I really hope that they don't. I really hope that they don't. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. My other like issue with the show, it's something that is probably a nitpick. As much as I love seeing both sides of the coin, and as much as I love the adult actresses and the adult actors and the kid actors, as much as I love seeing that, I kind of feel like, do we really need all of this? Like, I feel like they could have done all of the teenager stuff and then did a like they did however many seasons they wanted to draw that out, and then did all of the adult stuff after. Maybe in the end it'll be a payoff, like it'll really pay off, but as of right now I'm just not crazy about it. That's one of my biggest like pet peeves. The other part is that it's kind of slow in some parts. It does kind of slow down a lot in the parts with the adults. Like that was the parts I struggled to pay attention to, both when I watched it the first time and this time. It does slow down a lot. And it kind of is mixing two genres, and it's not doing it necessarily seamlessly, because you have this supernatural survival horror element with this teens, and then you have the crime thriller drama with the adults. So it's kind of like two separate genres that they're trying to commingle, and it doesn't necessarily flow as well, because when you're like, I really love the survival stuff. That stuff to me is like scary because it happens to people. People get stranded in those places. And they have to go through horrible things to help themselves. So this really, like, that stuff, the survival stuff really does it for me. But the crime drama stuff, it's good, it's enjoyable, and I love all of the people that are playing the characters. I will never say anything bad about Christina Ricci or Juliette Lewis, or even Melanie Linsky. Like, she's killing it these days. But I'll never say anything bad about them. They do a fantastic job, but the crime drama is just not as interesting. It's kind of like, again, with the It movies and even the book, when you're watching kids go through distress, even if they're played by adults, when you're watching kids go through distress, it's a lot more frightening and a lot more intense than watching adults going through distress. So there's a little bit of a disconnect when we get to the adult segments, because I just really don't I don't feel for them. I feel for them as kids, but I don't feel for them, as adults. I'm just kind of like, okay, like, no, Shauna's having an affair and Tysa's eating dirt again. And, Nat is being Nat. So again, they're all doing a fantastic job, but that is something that I'm like, did we really need to do it this way? Not necessarily. It's fine. They did it. It's whatever. We got to accept it. And like I said, everybody does a great job. I'm not hating on anybody. I'm not hating on the writing. I just feel like it's a little bit much. But those are really the only three things I don't like about the show. And that's pretty good, all things considered, because I could have picked a lot of stuff and absolutely not. What do I love about the show? Everything. No. Um, okay, first of all, this is completely like not important to the story or anything like that. I love the music. Okay? I'm going to be that millennial. I was born in the 90s. I was born in the 90s. I grew up around, family who were born in the 70s and 80s, who really listened to certain artists and 90s music. I know everything, every song that comes on in the show I pretty much know. Um I have this problem when I watch movies that switch songs a lot, that it really distracts me, and that happens a lot in this show a little bit. That could be, I guess, a complaint, that they do switch through songs, but they don't do it as much as other things. Like, a good example, Don't Worry, Darling. I watched that movie, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't even remember what happened in that movie, because they just kept playing 50 songs, but like 30 seconds of a 50 song, and then switching to another 30 seconds of a 50 song, and then switching to another 30 seconds of a 50 song. And I'm like, okay, we get it. They're in the 1950s. Stop doing that. Stop doing it. It's too freaking much, dude. It's too much. Too much. They do that a little bit in this show, but not as frequently. But the soundtrack is fantastic. I will get down with 90s music any day. I will get down with 90s music any day. I love the references. They actually reference the Spice Girls in there. And I think that's just, I love that, because that is, the 2000s are my era because that's when I was a teenager. But I do still have a soft spot in my heart for the 90s because I was a kid and I do remember watching music videos with my, family, listening to CDs with my family and just really liking the music. You know, I think it's all great. Um, so that's one thing I really love. The cinematography in the show is absolutely beautiful. I'm kind of just realizing now that it's getting dark and my background is actually turning dark. We're going to try to wrap this up quickly. I could get up and turn on my lights, but then I'm going to have to turn them off because we're almost done. um, yeah, so I really love the cinematography. It's beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. Also, back to the music real quick. I love the original score. I love the original score so much. It is creepy. It is terrifying. The chanting ladies. But it's perfect. And I also really love this theme song. I don't let the intro play on Paramount Plus because, um, uh, in the intro, it's kind of like a bunch of videotapes of the Yellowjackets, like a bunch of like, um, moments of them being teenagers. And there's one part towards like the end of the like opening credits where I don't know who it is, but a girl throws up, and I don't know why that had to be included in the opening title sequence. I don't know why we had to watch somebody throw up. So I let that because when I watched it on Showtime in 2023, we couldn't skip the intro. So I had to literally like keep my head down the whole time that the intro was playing so I couldn't see that part. But Paramount Plus lets you skip it, and it's sad because I absolutely adore No Return. That's what the name of the song is. It Alanis Morissette actually did cover this, but it does sound like an Alanis Morissette song. Like she covered the song for the show. It's in season 2, I believe. But the original song is great. Her cover is good. It's awesome. I really like it. Florence Welch did a cover of Just a Girl from No Doubt. And if you have problems with Gwen Stefani, like a lot of people do right now, listen to Florence Welch's cover of that and give Florence Welch her flowers because she's amazing. Um, like I said, the original score is great. Opening theme song's great. It's very rare that I love an opening theme song. It's usually animes that I love the opening theme song so much I will let them play, or have them on my playlist, which I do have No Return on my playlist. Um, the acting in this show is phenomenal. Everybody really brings their A game. Um, Everybody's believable. Nobody takes me out of like nobody when they pop on like screen takes me out of the show. It's really weird seeing big names like a big name like Juliette Lewis. I mean, I guess she's kind of not a big name, but she is a big name to me because I mean she's in a lot of stuff that I've seen. And the same thing with like Christina Ricci, like that's the original Wednesday Addams. uh, I really do, but I really, really, genuinely do like love everybody's performances. There was no weak link for me. Even in moments that I necessarily wasn't agreeing with the character, I really loved their performance. um they make it feel real. They make the distress and the trauma feel real, everybody in the show, and that is really important when you're doing a show like this. The writing in this show is really good. It's really like the conversations between everybody are really well thought out. They're really beefed up a lot. I mean, overall the show is just incredibly entertaining. It's super well written, super well acted. Soundtrack rocks. The special effects are amazing. Um, and I definitely think you should watch it if you haven't watched it. If you watch this entire video and you haven't watched Yellowjackets, I'm so sorry. You should have gone and watched that first. But yeah, what do I rate Yellowjackets? Because we are running on borrowed time here. It's getting dark. um, I rated a 4.5 out of 5 skulls. It is one of the few TV shows that hooked me and kept me on for the entire ride. And even rewatching it, like sometimes TV shows don't have any rewatchability, but this one definitely did. This one was really easy to consume, and I actually enjoyed rewatching it because I caught things this time that I didn't see last time, that I didn't notice last time. So I definitely would highly recommend watching this show if you haven't watched it yet. It is on Paramount Plus if you have Showtime. If you don't have Showtime, I'm sorry. But I would recommend, I highly recommend watching this show if you have the opportunity to do so. It's a great show. So, with that being said, we're going to wrap this baby up because again, it is dark. I did not compensate for that because I started recording and it was sun, you guys saw it, the slow gradual sun going down. But anyways, thank you guys so much for joining me on this really long and really weird journey of through the first TV show that I've ever covered on this channel. I'm so excited to do this show, and I do plan on getting season 2 out and then season 3. And then I also plan on doing a review of The Last of Us. I'm probably going to just do a full review of both season 1 and season 2 in one video, so it's going to be a long ass video. Yeah, no, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you've seen this show and do you like this show? Do you not like the show? Just leave a comment and let me know. Bars. Um, let's see. Trying to get my thoughts together real quick. Oh yes. If you know, I've seen that a lot of you have been watching. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. Like I said before, any engagement on this video lets me know that you enjoyed what you just watched. On socials, I am creepy critiques on everything. I am on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and Blue Sky. I don't really use social media all that much, but you know, we're all good. We're all good here, and maybe I'll start using it more now that I'm like getting into a rhythm of recording. I do have a website. I'm going to be posting some Halloween Horror Nights news on my website soon. I'm going to be working on that soon, so go check that out. Probably by the time this video is up, that'll already be done. Maybe. I'm not going to promise it. But yeah, go check that out. I'll leave the link in the description and all of that stuff. So again, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time with another creepy critique.